What's up, guys? This is my Windwalker DPS guide for Legion pre-patch, patch 7.0.3. In this guide I'm going to be going over your talents, your spells and abilities, your stat priority, and then your single target and AoE rotation, as well as a demonstration of each and a discussion about the differences in rotation with different talents for both single target and AoE, and then just macros and add-ons that you can use to help you out. So without further ado, let's jump into the talents. And in your first tier of talents, you're going to want Chi Wave for single target. You just use it on cooldown essentially. It's free, does some damage. You kind of fire and forget. Now, if you don't want an extra button for some reason, you can use Eye of the Tiger. It's not as good, but it is entirely passive, and there's no extra button. Now, for anything more than one target, you're going to want to use Chi Burst. Kind of like Chi Wave. It's a longer cooldown, 30-second cooldown. It has a small cast time, very, very short, under a second. And it just shoots out a little ball of energy, kind of goes in a straight line, does healing to your allies and damage to enemies. So kind of an AoE multi-target talent. So Chi Wave for single target, Chi Burst for anything more than one target, and Eye of the Tiger for single if you're lazy or don't want an extra button. Now for your next tier, these are all movement talents. So Chi Torpedo is it's kind of like it was before. It makes you go further, and then it also increases your movement speed for like 10 seconds or so after you use it, and that can stack. So if you Chi Torpedo like twice within those 10 seconds, you'll get a faster movement speed buff. It no longer does damage or healing though, the way it used to, so it's not a DPS gain to pick it up. Now we also have Tiger's Lust, which is an on-demand speed burst. You can cast it on yourself or somebody else in the party or raid, and it removes roots and snares and then boosts their speed for a little bit. As I noted, it does not make you immune to those effects, it just removes any currently applied effects. So this is a really good default, I think, because you can use it on other people if you need to, or you can use it on yourself. But they're all viable in their own ways and kind of prone to preference here. So Celerity just gives you an extra roll charge, so instead of 2 you get 3, and it's a shorter cooldown. So just more rolls essentially. So you kind of pick whatever fits your fancy, fits your style, and your needs for the raid. In your next tier, Power Strikes is actually probably the best right now. It's passive. It just makes your Tiger Palm generate 1 extra chi every 15 seconds. Once every 15 seconds, you get a little buff. But Energizing Elixir is really, really close in value. Like, you're practically not losing anything by using it, and it will become more dominant come Legion currently in the current build. So if you want to practice for Legion, Energizing Elixir is pretty nice, and if you want to get like a better opener and better burst windows, then you can use this as well. And what it does is just on a 1 minute cooldown, it will restore all of your energy and give you 5 chi. So it's really nice, really useful, and Ascension is not really worth using. It doesn't compare to the other two in how effective it is. Now in your next tier, it's all CC based, so you kind of pick whatever you want. Leg Sweep is an AoE stun around you. Dizzying Kicks, it's a slow on your blackout kick. So it's kind of useful, but not really because you already have Disable. And then Ring of Peace is like it's like a knockback. Essentially, you put the ring on somebody, and then it knocks people out of the ring. So if they use a harmful spell or ability, then they get knocked out. So it's kind of not that useful for raiding. So generally I would probably default to Leg Sweep, but it's kind of up to you here. They don't affect your DPS at all. At level 75, we've got defensive talents, so survivability. Healing Elixir heals you for 15% of your max health. It's got a 2 charge system, so it's now active ability rather than a passive ability. But it will proc if you dip below 35% health, assuming you do have a charge of it prepared, so it's kind of a nice safety net there. Diffuse Magic is a magic reduction cooldown. It's a 2 minute cooldown now. It's a bit longer than it was before, and it reduces the magic damage you take by 60%. So it used to be 90, so it's a little bit been nerfed, I suppose, a little bit. And it also applies the dots. Any dots that are on you get reapplied and shifted off to whoever cast it originally. So it's a nice magic damage reduction cooldown. Now Dampen Harm, 2 minute cooldown. Anything that does more than 15% of your max health will be reduced in damage by 30%. Then for the next 3 attacks. So it's kind of spread out more, and it can last longer. So it can be nice for that reason. more controlled like damage, or if it's physical damage rather than magic damage, or it's more spread out. So these are all kind of up to you. I probably default to Healing Elixir and then kind of shift it for whatever the situation calls for. Level 90 talents, hit combo is going to be your single target, and all it does is when you use two abilities that aren't the same in a row, you get a buff. So as long as you're not, say, spamming Blackout Kick, say you do like Blackout Kick to Rising Sun Kick or something, you'll get some damage bonuses, and that will stack up to 8 times. It's basically free damage, and you will lose the combo now and again, just because you don't want to sit around waiting for something to come off cooldown, because of the loss of DPS, but it'll give you like passive damage, which is really good, and it's pretty consistent. As far as AoE, you're going to want Rushing Jadewind. It costs 1 chi now, it's not free, it doesn't cost energy like it did. And you cost 1 chi, it's got a cooldown, and it just puts basically an AoE dot around you. It does damage to things around you. So, really useful for AoE. Now, in level 100, you're basically picking between 2 talents. Now, normally Whirling Dragon Punch should be your talent of choice in all situations. However, there is a bug right now where the mastery of, or your mastery stat, is not applied when you use your skill Storm, Earth, and Fire. And so it actually makes this a worse talent than Serenity currently. Now, if they ever fix the bug in pre-patch, or come Legion when they fix it then, hopefully at least, then Whirling Dragon Punch will be your go-to. But in the meantime, Serenity is actually better right now. It's outperforming it because of that bug. So for the time being, if you want, you can use Serenity. It'll do more for you. It replaces Storm Earth and Fire, which is why it's kind of better, because you don't have that bug going. And what it does is it makes you do more damage, and all the chi spenders that you have, all the skills that cost chi, are free, so that you can spam them without cost. And they have half the cooldown, so you can spam them more constantly, more frequently. Now, if you're going to use Whirling Dragon Punch, you can do that as well. It's a little worse right now, but it's good to get used to it if you want to kind of practice for Legion. And what it is it's a big attack, it's free, it's got a cooldown, but you have to use Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury before, they have to be on cooldown before you can use it, and we'll get into how to use that in the rotation section. So those are your talents. Now let's go ahead and take a look at your spells and abilities. Now I want to make a small mention here that now as Windwalkers you actually have to use you have to dual wield one-handed weapons. You cannot use a two-handed weapon anymore because some of your abilities require that you use one-handed melee weapons, so you're kind of stuck using those now, just as a small note, so just be aware of that. Alright, so as far as abilities go, we got Fist of Fury. It's your big damage cooldown. Costs 3 chi, you channel it. You can actually move now while you're using this, so you don't have to stand still. But it's your big chi spender, does a lot of damage. Pretty short. It's got like a middling or middle range cooldown. You'll be using this a lot. So just remember that you can move now while you cast this. Quite important. Rising Sun Kick is a 2 chi, costs 2 chi, does damage. Reduces healing enemies take, but for rating, not important. And with your 2-piece bonus, it actually gives you a buff called Masterful Strikes. That increases the mastery on your next ability by 10%. So we'll get into how that really applies later, and a Fist of Fury also with the 4-piece will apply that same buff. But we'll get into how that works in the rotation section. Now for Blackout Kick, it's just your chi spender, like when nothing else is around. 1 chi, does damage, very, very simple. Then we've got Tiger Palm. It costs 50 energy, and it builds chi for you. It generates 2 chi. So this is how you build your chi. It's just Tiger Palm and kind of dump your energy. Now you also have Spinning Crane Kick for AoE, generally, although there is a use for it in single target, which we'll get to. But it costs 3 chi, it's channels, but it's pretty short, and it just does damage in an area around you. Now, one thing to note though is, if you, when you're using Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick, those apply a debuff on the enemy, and for every debuff that's active on different enemies, it actually buffs the damage of your Spinning Crane Kick by 50% per, so it becomes really, really powerful. But we'll get into more about that in the rotation. We do have our interrupt, spearhand strike. We've got your disable for movement slowing, so if you need to slow an ad or something. And then we have Storm, Earth, and Fire. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown, but 2 charges, and like before, it splits you off into 3 spirits. But it does it all at once. You don't have to like keep pressing it to summon more spirits, like 1 or 2. You split off, and then while that's up, you can actually press it again, and they will all focus the target that you're focusing. So it kind of like brings them together if you want to focus them on something while it's still active. And it does, each clone does 45% of the damage that it would normally, that you do normally, so it's actually, even on single target, supposed to be a damage buff to use it. It's like a cooldown. However, because of the bug, it's like much less useful, because they're not benefiting from their mastery, which is kind of a huge blow to you as it's one of your best stats. But that is there. And one thing to note too about the debuff that Spinning Crane Kick, or that you put on for Spinning Crane Kick, it does count if you have Storm, Earth, and Fire up and your clones are hitting stuff with, say, your Tiger Palm or your Rising Sun Kick. They will apply debuffs and that will count towards your Spinning Crane Kicks. And then of course we have a Taunt, Provoke, if you need to tank briefly for some reason. You do have your roll button, so you can kind of roll forward, move faster. I've got Detox, which is your dispel for poisons and diseases. And then Paralysis for CC. It's kind of like a polymorph in a sense. It just CCs the target, and then if they take any damage, that breaks. And then we do have a Fuse for a heal, kind of a spammable heal, costs energy, that's it. And then Flying Serpent Kick gets you flying really, really far across the map. You can activate it again mid-flight to stop yourself, so you don't go too far. And then we have Touch of Death, which is your hardest hitting ability, and you can actually use it whenever now. What it does is 8 seconds after you apply it, it blows up and does your maximum health as damage to the target. So rather than being only usable on targets with like less health than you or sub 10%, you can now just use it whatever. 8 seconds after you use it, it will blow up on the target you use it on, and then does a massive amount of damage. So it's a really, really big cooldown. And then we've got Touch of Karma for defensives. It's just 1.5 minute cooldown. Any damage you take gets thrown back at the attacker or whoever you use it on. So can be used to standard mechanics sometimes, but don't die trying to do it because it does have a limit to how much damage you can absorb. So those are your spells and abilities. Now let's go ahead and talk about the stat priority for Windwalker. Now right now, Mastery is your best. It's going to be your best secondary stat. And what it is again, when you don't spam the same ability twice in a row, it buffs the damage of all the abilities you're doing. So if you use Tiger Palm and then Blackout Kick, they get buffed by Mastery, so they do more damage. You should kind of try to rotate through them without spamming the same ability, too often. Although, of course, that will happen now and again. So Mastery is your best stat. Now afterward, it kind of depends a little bit on which talent you're taking between Serenity and Whirling Dragon Punch. But regardless, both of them, after Mastery, Crit, and Versatility, are about equal. They have equal value, they don't really interact with you that much. And now if you have Whirling Dragon Punch, Haste is also equal, so it's kind of Mastery, and then everything else kind of keep level. They're about the same value. Now if you're using Serenity, Haste drops off and becomes your worst stat. So basically Mastery is your best, and then Crit and Versatility are about equal, and then Haste is equal only if you're using Whirling Dragon Punch, and if you're not, if you're using Serenity, then Haste is your worst stat. So they're very close, it just Haste drops out if you're not using this talent, Whirling Dragon Punch. So now those are your stats. I'll get into the single target rotation now, kind of what you're looking for, and I'll actually start with Whirling Dragon Punch, and I'll make brief mention of Serenity. Honestly, Serenity doesn't change your rotation that much. It only changes your rotation during Serenity, essentially. Everything else is the same, so I'll mention it briefly at the end of each rotation and do a quick demonstration after each rotation as well, just to kind of show you the in Serenity, how to do it in Serenity. So we'll start with this talent, the Whirling Dragon Punch version. And so what you're going to want to do is your biggest cooldowns you want to use, of course, are Whirling Dragon Punch when you can, Fist of Fury, and then Rising Sun Kick. Now, in order to use Whirling Dragon Punch, you have to use both these abilities, and they have to be on cooldown. What that means is you're basically going to want to Rising Sun kick first, so you can get that buff of Masterful Strikes. And then, if you have Touch Death, you can squeeze it in right there, right after the Rising Sun kick, because it will benefit your biggest ability. And then Fist of Fury, so make sure you have Masterful Strikes up from Rising Sun kick for Fist of Fury. And then, of course, you'll have Whirling Dragon Punch available, so you use that right away. And then go into the next part of the rotation. Now, after those abilities are on cooldown, you've just used them, you want to avoid capping on your resources. So if anything is full, like your chi is getting full, or your energy especially is getting full, you want to use Tiger Palm to get rid of energy, or Blackout Kick to get rid of chi, and then Chi Wave. Pretty much like before, if nothing's about to cap, so if your energy is low, you don't have that much chi, you can Chi Wave after you've done the combo, Rising Sun Kick into Fists of Fury into Whirling Dragon Punch, then comes Chi Wave, as long as nothing's capping, like your resource-wise, and then just dump your resources via Tiger Palm and Blackout Kick. Blackout Kick to spend Chi, and Tiger Palm to use energy and generate Chi. Now, again, Touch of Death on cooldown as much as possible, and if you can, use it, after Rising Sun Kick, so you have that, or after Fist of Fury. Just make sure you have Masterful Strikes when possible for that. If you have your 2-piece or 4-piece from Hellfire Citadel. As far as Storm Within Fire is concerned, I'll go ahead and teach you guys how you're supposed to use it, even if it's not really doing what it's supposed to be right now. You do want to use this right before you Fist of Fury. So you're going to Rising Sun Kick, maybe Touch of Death if it's up, and then Storm Within Fire. And if you need to, you can use it twice. So click it, you split off, click it again to make them, hey, like stop running over there, like come back to the boss, and then Fist of Fury. You basically use it right before Fists, and then you just go on with the rotation, and that's how you use Storm Within Fire for single target. So that's pretty much the single target rotation with Whirling Dragon Punch. It's all about making sure you pull enough chi so that when you see Fist of Fury is coming off cooldown, you save up enough so you can Rising Sun Kick, and then Fist of Fury right away as soon as possible. And of course squeeze in the cooldowns you need to, like Touch of Death or Storm Within Fire if they're available. And then Whirling Dragon Punch, then Chi Wave, and then make sure you dump your resources, energy and chi, as you need to. Now, if you're using Serenity rather than Whirling Dragon Punch, the only difference is in Serenity itself. So the rotation is the exact same, minus, of course, Whirling Dragon Punch, which you don't have. And you even use it the same way as you use Storm Within Fire. You use it right before you Fist of Fury. And the only difference is after you Fist of Fury, your rotation then becomes for the next few seconds. You want a Rising Sun Kick when it's up, and then you want a Spinning Crane Kick when it's up. Basically as much as possible, because it's free and it actually does more than Blackout Kick does, especially with the Mark of the Crane debuff. Even on single target, it does a lot more. So during Serenity, you want to Rising Sun Kick when possible after Fist. So Fist first, and then if you have it, Rising Sun Kick. And if not, Spinning Crane Kick. And then you weave in Blackout Kicks in between Spinning Crane Kicks, because you can't spam it while you're channeling, but you can kind of like cheat in a little Blackout Kick in between each one. Now, just be aware of the timer on Serenity, so that like when it's about to end, and that way you don't accidentally use 3 chi a single target on Spinning Crane Kick, which is really, really inefficient. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the rotation with Whirling Dragon Punch first, and then I'll do a brief demo of at least the burst rotation for Serenity, so you can see what it's like during the Serenity burst period. So to start the fight, you will use Energizing Elixir, get all your chi, and you have about 8 to 9 seconds before the chi starts to kind of decay and you lose it a little bit. So do it before the pull, but not too far. And then after that, we'll use Chi Wave because it's got a kind of a travel time, and then you can fly and Serpent Kick in toward whatever the boss is, and then make sure you stop yourself at the boss, and then we'll open with the rotation. I'll kind of show you that. So we'll pop the elixir, wait a few seconds. I won't make you guys wait too long. I'll Chi Wave, kind of kick in, and then I will Rising Sun Kick, Touch of Death, Storm Within Fire, and then Fists of Fury. and then Whirling Dragon Punch. Now build a little chi, use Rising Sun Kick, build chi, use Chi Wave, and then Blackout Kick, just kind of dump chi, and then stuff like that. Now if you can, weave them together, see, so that you can get like your Mastery and your hit combo bonuses up. Now I see that my Fist of Fury is coming up in a few seconds, so I'll pull up, and I'll Rising Sun Kick, Storm Earth and Fire again, and then Fist of Fury, and then Whirling Dragon Punch, and then Chi Wave, and then build Chi, use Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick when you can, and just kind of dump Chi with Blackout Kick and build with Tiger Palm. Now again, I see that it's coming up pretty soon, Fist of Fury, so even though I have the ability to use Rising Sun Kick, I don't right away use it. Fist of Fury, and then Whirling Dragon Punch, and that's pretty much the rotation. Now one thing you know, you see the elixirs up now, so you can now not have to pull as much when you see Fist of Fury coming up, because you know, oh, I can just press that and have it ready to go. So in this case, I will now use Rising Sun Kick without saving up, pop that, Fist of Fury, and then you just kind of smooth out the rotation, any like kind of difficult or awkward spots there. Rising Sun Kick, Chi Wave, and then dump your energy and or Chi with Blackout Kick and Palm. And so there you would save for, you want to save up for Fist of Fury since it's coming up, and you can do Rising Sun Kick a little earlier, but don't do it too early, otherwise you will you may run out of time to use your Whirling Dragon Punch, and you might have to Rising Sun Kick again to do it, which is really bad, and you don't want to do that. So that's your single target rotation, pretty much, with Whirling Dragon Punch. Alright, now I'll go ahead and show you guys the briefly the Serenity burst rotation. So what you do in Serenity. Now the rest of the rotation is pretty similar. It's pretty much exactly the same, minus Whirling Dragon Punch. So I won't do it for as long, but just to show you what the kind of skill ability in rotation is. So we'll open up the same way. Pop Elixir, and again, if you have Power Strikes, 2 Tiger Palms will fill you up on Chi. Chi Wave, kick in, stop there. Rising Sun Kick, Touch of Death, Serenity, Fist of Fury. And then we'll do Spinning Crane Kicks into Blackouts, into Spinning Crane, into Rising Sun Kick. And now I don't have enough time, so I'll save my Chi, do Chi Wave, and then Rising Sun Kick into Fist of Fury, and kind of keep going, just like the rotation before. So spend Chi with Rising Sun Kick and then Blackout Kick, and then spend energy and build Chi with Tiger Palm, and then Chi Wave is on cooldown there. There's nothing else important up there, so we'll go with that. And then watch your timer for Fist of Fury, of course. And make sure you have your Rising Sun Kick Masterful Strikes buff up for that. So now let's talk about your AoE rotation and how that works. And again, there will be 2 versions, so I'll start with Whirling Dragon Punch, and then show you briefly the Serenity afterward, and we'll discuss that as well. So for AoE, you're also going to want Rushing Jade Wind, very important. And then Chi Burst instead of Chi Wave. And so what you want to do is kind of the same in a sense that your top priority is to use Fist of Fury off cooldown and Whirling Dragon Punch if you have this talent. And of course, to use Whirling Dragon Punch, you have to use Rising Sun Kick. Now in AoE rotation, you don't really want to use Rising Sun Kick, so you will use it only to make sure that you can use Whirling Dragon Punch. So use it the same way, Rising Sun Kick into Fists, or if you want to squeeze in the Touch of Death first, that's fine. But basically, Rising Sun Kick into Fists, into Whirling Dragon Punch. But outside of that, you don't want to use it at all until you want to use or are able to use Whirling Dragon Punch. Other than that, instead of this, what you want to use is Rushing Jade Wind. It costs 1 Chi. It does a buttload of damage on a short cooldown. And then after that, you can Chi Burst, and then spend your Chi on Spinning Crane Kick, and then build Chi with Tiger Palm and use energy if you're getting energy capped. Now one thing to note with Spinning Crane Kick is you want to hit as many different targets as you can with your Tiger Palm or with your Blackout Kick, if you're using it, or even your Rising Sun Kick if you happen to be using that, to set up your Fist of Fury. Because of that Mark of the Crane debuff they apply, it's very important that you have as many as possible because that'll buff your Spinning Crane Kick. So just keep that in mind. As you're doing your fillers, make sure you switch targets as much as possible, and just keep track that that you have as many Mark of the Cranes out as possible. So that's the AoE rotation. Now, same thing, Storm Earth and Fire for right before Fists, so exact same usage. Although you don't necessarily have to make them focus on the same target, because they can help you debuff more things at once if they're hitting different things, with your Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, and so on. Now, as far as Serenity is concerned, if you're going to use it again, the rotation itself remains the same. Just in the Serenity window, you basically want to Fist of Fury, of course, right away, and then just rotate between Spinning Crane Kick, and you do want to still have your Rushing Javelin active at the time, but Spinning Crane Kick, and then, Rising Sun Kick if it's up, and then Blackout Kick if it's not. Kind of weave those in between Spinning Crane Kicks, and remember to switch targets when you use them so you can debuff them with to make your Spinning Crane Kick even stronger. But Rushing Javelin is kind of higher priority than those two in AoE, even in Serenity, so keep that in mind. Don't use Rising Sun Kick pretty much at all outside of Serenity, if you have Serenity, because there's no reason on AoE to use it, other than the fact that it allows you to use Whirling Dragon Punch, which you won't have if you're spec'd into Serenity, and I'll show you that briefly after this. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate the AoE rotation now with Whirling Dragon Punch. We'll start with Energizing Elixir, and then again, if you have Power Strikes, make sure you can just Tiger Palm twice, get 5 Chi, and then you're ready to go. And then we'll Chi Burst, kick in, and then do the rotation. So Elixir, Chi Burst, kick in, and then we'll Storm Earth and Fire, Rising Kick, Fist of Fury, Whirling Dragon Punch, and I actually forgot to Touch of Death, but you can do that as well. And then just build Chi and spend it on Rushing Jadewind first, actually. And then, if you have enough, Spinning Crane Kick. Now watch your Fist of Fury timer, of course. It's coming up, so I want to build up enough Chi so I can use both. And now we'll Rising Sun Kick, Storm Earth and Fire, Fist of Fury, Whirling Dragon Punch, and then I want to get Rushing Jadewind up. And then I'll use Chi Burst. Now I have free Blackout Kick, so I can use that to debuff stuff. And then I'll build Chi, and then Spinning Crane Kick when I can. And again, the more things you have debuffed, the more it does. Keep your Rushing Jadewind rolling as much as possible. I have enough to use Fist of Fury, so I'll Rising Sun Kick first, then Fist of Fury, and then Whirling Dragon Punch, and then carry on. So that's the AoE rotation. You want to have Rushing Jadewind up after that combo, and then Spinning Crane Kick. Now, the more targets you have, so 4+ especially, Chi Burst kind of loses out in value versus Spinning Crane Kick, so the more targets you have, the more you may want to consider just using Spinning Crane Kick over Chi Burst, although again, if you don't have enough Chi and no energy, etc., you can of course use that, and it's still quite useful. Basically, it's the same as single target in terms of your kind of burst rotation with Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick, and then just in between you add in, your Rushing Jadewind, your Spinning Crane Kicks as fillers, and then Chi Burst, before that if you need to, and just try to debuff as many things as you can. So that's your AoE rotation as far as Whirling Dragon Punch is concerned. Now for Serenity, again, I'll just show you briefly the kind of in Serenity burst rotation, because the rest of it's the same, just less Rising Sun Kicks, and even, it's pretty much the same. Even then, you only use it. You don't need to use it before Fists, and in Serenity you only use it because it's free, and if you're down to just one of these two, single target abilities, it does do more than Blackout does. So that's the only reason you use it. So I'll show you briefly here. We'll go ahead and Elixir, Chi Burst, go in, and then Touch of Death and Serenity, Fist of Fury, and then we'll Rushing Jade, Spinning Crane, just fill in between Spinning Cranes, and then when it's gone, make sure you have enough to Fist of Fury again, and just kind of continue the same way you did before, except this time you don't have to worry about Rising Sun Kick before Fist of Fury at all, so you don't have to pull as much, which is kind of nice, and then make sure you're debuffing things in between uses of your Spinning Crane Kick. So here, I'm just keeping things debuffed. I don't have to worry too much. I just need 3 for Fist because I don't need to buff it with Rising Sun Kick since I don't need to use Whirling Dragon Punch. And that's pretty much the only difference there, is that you kind of use it less. You keep your other stuff rolling, your Rushing Jade Wind there, Spinning Crane Kick as kind of a filler, Rushing Jade Wind's back up. Remember, it's a very short cooldown, so keep track. Your Fist is almost up. Make sure you're able to use it, but that's pretty much all you need to do. I have Elixir, so I'll go ahead and use that, and then Fists. And then Rushing, and then Chi Burst. And same thing with the more targets, the more Spinning Crane Kick kind of takes over versus Chi Burst, at least kind of at the end of your rotation, if you will. So that's the AoE rotation. This was with Serenity, and then the Whirling Dragon Punch was shown earlier. So that's it for the single target and AoE rotations. Now, as far as macros and add-ons that you can use, I don't really use any macros right now. Just nothing I can think of stacking. But as far as add-ons go, I'm using Weak Auras right now. Just for like some pretty basic stuff, I use it to track your Fist of Fury cooldown, so you know exactly when it's coming up. And I'm also tracking Masterful Strikes, which is that buff you get from using Rising Sun Kick or Fist of Fury with your 2 or 4 piece from HFC. It's just so I know when it's up. I can see, oh, I do have it. I'm ready to use Fist of Fury. And then as well as a Serenity icon and timer, just so I know exactly how long I have before Serenity runs out, so I don't end up using Spinning Crane Kick by accident, and spending 3 chi when I just meant to make it free. Any other add-ons like Power Aura or Tell Me When or something like that could also work. Those are things I would definitely recommend. I'm also using Omni CC. It shows timers on the actual abilities. It's like numbers rather than just kind of a generic picture estimation. But if you're using Weak Auras, you probably don't need to worry about that too much. And that's pretty much all I'm using right now on this monk. So, that's it for this guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helped. If you liked the video, feel free to hit it with a like. And if you would like to see more videos like this in the future, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.